Sun Szu, The Art of War, Chapter 2, Waging on War, he has a great quote. And this quote is once again about speed. And if you get anything out of me over the Sun Szu series, is that one of the key components of winning any battle or any war is speed. So he says, hence what is essential in war is victory, not prolonged operations. I love that quote. But then he continues and says, and therefore the general who understands war is the minister of the people's faith and arbiter of the nation's destiny. Let that sink in. And basically what he's saying is that, you know, when you're going to war, it's not about how long you do it. You want to get it over with as fast as you can. And sometimes that means not even actually engaging in war, but having a compromise or forming alliances where you can force your competitor to make the decisions that you want him to make. But once again, the common theme is speed, and I found it very interesting. Here's what I do sometimes. I'll collect articles by different people that have pretty interesting quotes and make me think about stuff. And so IBM CEO Virginia Ramady said there was an article that talked about IBM's chief to employees. I guess it was an internal video, 5-minute video to 434,000 employees, and she reprimanded the employees for not acting fast enough. So it was basically the theme of the article, and the message of the video was that think fast, move faster. And I wanted to expand on that a little bit, but bottom line is she said, where we haven't transformed rapidly enough, we struggled. And of course, she's obviously realized that as a large organization, I mean, 434,000 employees is a massive, massive force. I mean, I don't know how that compares in terms of military personnel globally, but I would say that the 434,000 employees for IBM, if you use that number related to some of the military forces in the world, it's pretty high up. And so, you know, she talks about, so I give her a lot of credit for realizing that speed is critical in winning any war, any battle. And she goes on to, you know, encourage and inspire the IBM employees to, you know, do things, you know, react within 24 hours, look to accelerate the business processes in every way they can. But in reality, one of the key things as a general, I would ask her is like, do your employees really understand the underlying principles of increasing speed in the business? And this is where the lean production principles, ironically from Taiichi Ohno, a Japanese. So on one end, we've got a Chinese military genius from 2,000 years ago that is setting the milestones of strategy in business and war, but by the same token, the solution to some of the strategic maneuvering points that Sun Szu makes are actually well executed by another genius, Taiichi Ohno, when it comes to applying the principles of speed. So if you look at it from that perspective, okay, what you have to do is, if you want to increase speed in your business, you have to look at Toyota production system. Because the Toyota production system enables any company, whether they're a manufacturer, software developer, even someone like IBM, to look at any business process that is taking a product, whatever that product is, and deliver it to some customer X, and makes them go through the process of identifying the value streams, the value propositions and all that, and then figuring out where they can compress the cycle of order to delivery, whatever that is. So if you look at it, you know, you can look at any process. I could literally go into IBM, look at any of their processes, and I could look at 2 points. One is the order point, and one is the delivery. And then, I don't care what product it is, product X, product Y, software B, software Z, it doesn't matter. It's like, what I can do is I can look at it and see what is the production cycle for whatever that is. And what I mean by production cycle, I'm talking all the points. You know, there may be like 20 processes to get something done. But if my production cycle is shorter, then the cycle, the time frame Okay, between order and delivery, I'm doing really well. I'm incorporating speed into every component of my business. But if my production cycle is longer than my order to delivery, then what happens is now I have to deal with the mass production mentality, which just used to drive Taichi Ono nuts. Is that I have to now start forecasting. I have to start predicting what I have to do, okay, ahead of time, because in reality what happens with a lot of businesses, whether they're a startup or a Fortune 500, is that now if they want to meet this time frame, they have to start building products or services before the customer even orders it. Okay, so what happens is then you've got all this fluctuation, which you don't know whether the customer is actually going to buy it, or you're doing a lot of stuff that really you don't know whether the customer is going to buy. So if I would say that I love the fact that the IBM CEO is very cognizant that speed is speed is going to be one of the most critical vectors, strategic vector points moving forward in any industry. Is that she recognizes that fact, but all the implementation and the tactics that have to happen, the operational procedures, the knowledge about increasing speed for each employee, aka soldier, has to be incorporated, and the only way you can do it is by continuous training of all the employees. So for me to tell you, hey, you got to get out there and think fast, act faster, blah, 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 it's like, that's not going to solve the problem. What you have to do is you have to think through and say, whatever I'm business in, how do I incorporate speed in development, speed in manufacturing, speed in design, speed in marketing and sales and operations? How do I incorporate those things? And if you don't know how to incorporate it, well, for heaven's sake, continue to watch some of the videos I'm putting out on that. Until next time.